I get a lot of unsolicited advice about getting out while I still can. A lot of questions come, and they're usually pretty harsh. I've been told that my students are going to rape me, or stab me, or steal from me. You know, they're too far gone that I can't reach them. Most of these conversations end with some form of a God bless you. But they believe what I grew up believing, right? That there are some groups of people that are inherently more violent, more dangerous, and lazier than others. To borrow from Adelise, a 10th grader in my first period class, people wouldn't do so many crimes if they had enough money to live off of. They wouldn't do drugs and waste their money on them if they wouldn't do drugs or waste their money on them if they weren't worried about their lives and wanting to die every day. So I've been trying for weeks to isolate the moment that brought me here. Right, that got me to this exact moment, to dedicate my life to trying to break down some of these deep inequalities in the U.S. public education system, but I can't find it. Right, I can't find the exact moment that put me in this room with all of you. I was talking with my partner Randy about this assignment a few weeks ago, and he kind of chuckled at me, and he was like, "That's the point, babe. It's not a moment, right? It's what's compounded over your life." So I go to the moments. Because school is what saved me. You know, what got me here. As a kid, I jumped back and forth between houses and divorced parents and boyfriends, but I always went to the same classrooms. Full of teachers that told me that I mattered and showed me my future. I do this work because a lot of kids don't have that experience with school. I do this work because I've been let off the hook for speeding. Because look at me, I'm a privileged white woman. You know, because I get the loans and the benefit of the doubt, and police officers don't follow me. Because privilege is not random. No, it is created and enforced. I do this work because Javier told me that I'm the only class in his day that matters. Because why the hell don't the other classes matter? Because he deserves a full schedule of classes that matter. This work is my passion because when I was assaulted and excluded and told to shrink, there was always a teacher there to remind me of my strength, to give me opportunities, and to tell me that I could make it. The kids at Lincoln, where I teach now, they don't have that. They have teachers that clock in and clock out, that run out of notebook paper and close their doors during lunchtime. But mostly I've decided to do this work because the people in power do not want me to. Why do you think the salaries at urban schools are so low? Why do you think the work is so looked down upon? The kids in my classroom, Jose and Osvaldo and Zach and Max and Andreina and Maria, they're the revolution. Just laying dormant until someone is able to show them what they can do. So when I'm met with all these questions, I usually just smile. But then that leads to people giving me this look like, what is wrong with that lady? So I just remind them that it's really easy to live up to low expectations. And if that makes me seem too passionate, it's because I am. If it makes me seem too optimistic, it's because I am. And if it makes me seem too radical, then hey, at least I'm in good company, right? Being radical is one of the greatest things that a person could be, despite how often it's thrown around as an insult. It was Paulo Freire that said, the more radical a person is, the more fully they may enter into a reality, so that by knowing it better, they can transform it. This person is not afraid to confront, to listen, to see the world unveiled. They're not afraid to meet the people and to enter into a dialogue with them. They do not consider themselves to be the proprietor of history or of all people, nor the liberator of the oppressed. But they do commit themselves within history to fight at their side. That's really what I've learned about teaching in these past 4 years. It's not about me. It's not about standing up and saying this, whatever it is, this is what we're going to learn. Right? It's about standing next to students and asking them, hey, what do you want to learn? And then giving them a lot of opportunities to learn that. It's about open door policies, literally. Asking a lot of questions and saying, if you're interested in this, we should talk about it more. And as I continue to establish myself as a teacher and reflect on what's gone right and why, I do find aspects of my teaching that deeply trouble me. Because in a lot of ways, I've been a really good teacher. I've been exactly what my students have needed to enjoy school and to learn. But even as I say that, a huge paradox is created. One that I've been mulling over for the past couple of weeks. Right, because I start every class with hugs and I love you alls. My Inauguration Day protest sign hangs on the back wall of my classroom. I march for my students is pinned in black Sharpie, all their names in the background. I start every day by telling them that I have the best job in the world, that I love them so much. I have lunch with all of them. I let them be themselves in class. They can swear and check their phones if they need to, get up and stretch. I have always said, come as you are, and let's learn together. And by loving my students, they have learned to love me. Right? And together we've been able to get a lot of really incredible things to happen in the classroom. They've written me really intimate personal narratives, and we've engaged in heartfelt dialogue. They come to school even if they don't want to. And in college, I was endlessly inspired by stories of students doing things for their teachers. David Funk and Jim Fay preach this tactic in their classroom management book, Teaching for Love and Logic. The duo explains that great teachers have discovered that a large part of their success is due in part to their ability to establish positive relationships with children. And of course, right? Because kids will always perform for the person that they love. And while there's a part of me that loves that, I do find myself questioning the ethics and sustainability of it all. They suggest this tactic as an intervention for students with low self-concepts because, simply put, if students love themselves, they'll perform for themselves. But if they don't, they'll have to do it for someone else, or they won't at all. So where does that leave me? My students both adore me and have low self-concepts. So the aforementioned strategy works every time I use it. And like I said, while in some ways I love it, I do find myself having to confront all of the problematic implications that it creates. Because in my absence, through travel or illness or political protest, the students get restless and rowdy. They decide they're not going to come to school, or they don't do their classwork. They get up out of their seats and ignore all of our classroom expectations, and they disrespect whichever adult I've left in charge. And I'll return a few days later with a nasty letter from a substitute on my desk and a chorus of, "Miss, where were yous?" And if I don't go to school, all hell breaks loose because right now they depend on me to be there, to show them that I love them, and to ask them to do stuff for me. They're the reason I almost didn't come home for this, right? For my capstone and college graduation. Because all I heard last week was stay, and "Miss, why are you doing this to us?" and "don't go." It's heavy. Right, I sought out to teach kids that they were the revolution, and I made the revolution contingent on my presence. So that's my meditation. Right, when I'm left questioning after exiting undergrad and this transformative program. Because as a teacher, this feeling that I have is really rewarding. Right, it's empowering to know that I, Miss Kane, can typically motivate them to do things that they wouldn't have done or that they thought that they couldn't do. But I often find myself deeply troubled by this notion as well because I'm living out a really real white savior complex. As I have to consider the implications of being one of the only reasons my kids come to school. It's the wrong page. Sorry, one sec. Okay. And my classroom does not exist in a vacuum, right? I know that. Their self-concepts would be significantly higher if they got the love and support they get in my classroom, in other classes, or at home, but how can I work to remedy this deeply rooted problem in such an unforgiving environment? One that treats kids like they're criminals and calls them dropouts.